Wow! It's 2 minutes to late night!
Alright, what's up, Spider-Man popsicles with the eyeballs all fucked up? Last time I think we did Ninja Turtles, but now we're talking about Spider-Man. So, fuck it. Welcome to 5 Minutes to Cast Night. It's just me and Drew, so we're going to talk about Spider-Man 3. That's the whole thing.
You've been waiting for it. It's finally happening. Spider-Man 3, the movie that ruined all of our lives. We're here to talk about it.
It really ruined our life. It's weird how, I feel like Spider-Man 3 has been talked on every, weird comedy podcast. Like, someone does that, but we're actually talking about it because just anytime we've been in our creative process or whatever, or, writing up way too late, we just have ended up complaining about this movie.
Well, I think so Jordan and I we're about the same age. We ever take a year. So I think this movie came out when I was 18 or 19, which means that I saw Spider-Man 1 in my peak child enjoying movie years. It came out, I guess I must have been 13 or something. And then as the movies got a little older, I got a little older. So now it's Spider-Man 3 came out the year that I learned that the world is a bad place and you will never be happy.
Yeah, I that's my experience with it too. I remember when Spider-Man came out at the for me it was at the age of when I should it should be my peak enjoying superhero movies. But I remember getting bullied as a child in second grade, when a kid bit me in the ear because I still watched the Batman cartoon. I was like, we're not watching this anymore. He's like, no, you loser. And his attack at me was to bite my ear because it was also the year that Mike Tyson bit somebody in the ear.
Dude, all of your stories, you have the most weird, interesting injuries. I mostly just got kicked. I mostly just got kicked in the ribs.
I wish that there was karate at my school, but no, it was just weird. It was kids throwing rocks and biting each other. It was prison.
I saw this movie.
Rules.
I saw Spider-Man 3 with my high school girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And not my current high school girlfriend. That's a whole nother story.
Oh no,
Call the cops.
Yeah, that's the you going to jail part of this.
She's a teacher at the high school that I attend. I'm undercover like Cameron Crowe.
Is she the one who got fired for having a picture of boobs?
What?
Do you remember? There's the news story where a kid found a picture of his teacher's boobs, and then she got fired because a kid found her leaked boob photo.
I like to imagine that he found it in a cave, he was spelunking.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the Goonies. He found it in a boat.
I don't remember that, no, but I do remember being 18 or 19 and going to the movies with my girlfriend at the time. And about 5 minutes in the movie, she starts putting her hands on me, and I'm like, what are you doing? This is Spider-Man. We don't hook up during Spider-Man. We watch Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I regret that, man. At the end of the movie, I was like, damn it, I should have fucking made out. This sucks.
Yeah. Well, I remember, it was an important movie for me too, because I got bullied out of being able to enjoy superheroes. So I remember seeing Spider-Man and having to pretend to not like it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is lame. And then Spider-Man 2 came out, and I remember going with all of my friends and having to suppress all of my emotions and just laugh when Tobey Maguire got hurt. Because we were like, yeah, nerd. This Spider-Man sucks. And in my heart, I'm like, no, I love this. So I remember...
I love this.
I remember Spider-Man 3 came out when just, it was when, nerd culture, slowly was starting to come back a little bit. It started to be
I think it was,
little bit cool.
It was the big push. Because that also, you got to remember, Spider-Man 3 had an extra year. Because Spider-Man 2 came out in 2002. Or 2004. Spider-Man came out in 2002. So I remember they pushed that movie back a year, and I was so excited. I was like, I couldn't believe they made us wait an extra year, because this is before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they were churning out movies left and right, and the idea of having to wait was crazy.
Yeah, no, I remember, and everyone was pumped because we're all like 90s kids, and we all remembered, we all grew up in the era of just big teeth comic books and shit. And it was like you had the Christian Bale Batman that was like was awesome. Like kids were just excited that there was I think it was the superhero boom was starting to come back, and we were just excited to. I personally was excited to just like re-enjoy my childhood that got bitten away from me.
Yeah. You got bit by a radioactive Colorado person.
Yeah, a radioactive tall kid in a big shirt.
You got all of his powers, which included being able to make a burrito for minimum wage.
Yeah. But do you remember, did this movie have like a weird little phenomena in your town? Like, was this a big deal, or it was you alone?
This was my freshman year of college, actually. So I went back to my hometown because I had a girlfriend back home, and that's what we would just do, is we would go to the movies. But this was I can't wait to get the fuck out of town, and like, I'm going to make something of myself, and I'm not going to talk to any of these people ever again. And I kind of wish that I didn't do that, because maybe I would have enjoyed Spider-Man a little more if I didn't have this like investment in it,
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, like, I saw Spider-Man, like, I was a weird nerd kid, and I'll probably post photos of these, but I went to see Spider-Man 2. I made my own Doc Ock costume out of like vacuum tubes.
Yeah.
And like my mom's trench coat, and it was a terrible costume, and it fell apart like on the way to the movie theater. And so I ended up just like going in a trench coat, which looking back is like, you can't wear a trench coat and be a kid. If you wear a trench coat and you're a kid, you should be arrested.
100%. You can't be an adult and wear a trench coat. No one looks good in a trench coat. I wanted to arrest myself when we did the Punisher sketch.
Yeah, no, trench coats are bad. And every time someone makes a joke about like, oh, he's just 7 muskrats in a trench coat, I'm like, those muskrats should go to jail.
I know.
They did something bad. How did they get a trench coat?
Yeah, they're lighting stuff on fire out in the back of the school near the basketball hoop. It's gross.
But the other thing that I did that was really gross is I was a huge Hellboy fan, because of course I was.
Yeah,
I was a fucking nerd kid, and I loved Hellboy, and I was really excited for Hellboy, and I made a Hellboy costume, same trench coat. It was my mom's trench coat, and I wore it to what I thought was the premiere, and then not like the premiere like like you go to like the city or anything like that, like literally like the day that it opens up in my hometown mall. And I went dressed as Hellboy, and none of my friends were dressed up. It was just me, and I had red paint and the red hand of doom and everything. And I got the weekend wrong, and it was actually the week before it opened. And we just saw Dawn of the Dead a second time instead. So I saw Dawn of the Dead dressed as Hellboy for some reason.
I was hoping it was going to be just like a Pixar movie instead. Like you went to Finding Dory dressed as Hellboy. But that's awesome.
I wish.
Dude, I was excited for Hellboy too, but the weirdest thing about Hellboy was is that no one knew that it was a prior thing, and that everyone in my town was just like, the fuck is this movie? It's just a bald red guy with a big hand.
Yeah.
If you don't know the Mike Mignola drawings, like selling Hellboy to someone is super weird.
Yeah,
like, if
selling Hellboy to anybody's weird. Period. At this point.
Yeah. I remember being pumped because like I knew the comic book, and also I was really stoked that there was like a Dimmu Borgir song in a trailer.
Yeah,
which is perfect, because Dimmu Borgir just sounds like Warcraft the musical. Like it's so perfect for them, is to be a fucking movie trailer band. But like this, I remember this is the first midnight showing I think I remember a lot of people wanting to go to. Before we really get into this, we should talk about like how we decided to do this as like a podcast, because I think the first thing we ever put out as a team, the first 2 things we put out are Marvel themed sketches.
Oh, that's right. So we put out this video called Punisher 66, and it was It's basically like, what if there was like a Adam West Batman Punisher, and he's like hyper violent, but it's also really campy. But before that, we put out a video that no one saw and no one liked.
I still think,
but
it's
I think
funny.
it's, I still think it's
so
really funny. And it's like a fake video game review show, and they review a first-person Daredevil game. And obviously, the joke is that a first-person Daredevil game would be a black screen because he's blind. And it was like, we made it with our friends Nicole and Raleigh, who are in a sketch group called Stevedore. And Nicole's been on the podcast a couple times, and she played Thin Liz in the second episode with John Baisley. And we made this video. It's online. You can find it. If that's your thing, you might like it. It's both like subtle and not subtle at all. I think it came out really, really good, but I get why no one gave a shit about it, you know?
Yeah. We put it out right when the Daredevil TV show came out, and that sketch didn't blow up, even though I think it's because it's so subtle. It's because it looks like if it just, like, the jokes are, like, don't start until you notice that it's a black screen.
Yeah.
And it's such a long build-up because it's just a video game review show parody. But then
watch it, and you should watch it, and if you like it, tell me, and if you don't like it, you don't have to tell me, I know that.
I know that you don't like it.
But then we did another video.
Drew and I just talk about Marvel at 3 a.m. I think like this was a 3 a.m. idea that we just built into a thing where we it was right after we shot the pilot of 2 Minutes, right?
Yeah, so we shot the pilot in September 2015, and then I think we were really excited about Daredevil season 2 because it was going to have Punisher. We both like love the character, the Punisher, and
I hate the Punisher.
No, wait, did we? Oh, I didn't know you hated the Punisher.
Oh yeah, no, I genuinely hate. I think I hate that character. I love the movie Punisher Warzone though, because it's the first R-rated like high budget movie directed by a woman.
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's really funny to watch like a violent dude movie through the like lens of like a woman, and it just is bizarre. It's bizarre tonally because of that, and it's crazy.
See, I love Punisher, the Thomas Jane one, because I love John Travolta getting murdered. That's my favorite part.
I do love that. I loved when that movie came out because it was super. I think I just thought that Tom Jane was really handsome, and I thought I'd seen him in small stuff like in Boogie Nights. And I was like, I just want to see more of that handsome guy.
Oh fuck yeah, he is in Boogie Nights. Yeah. So is Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, I know, everybody fucking
in Boogie Nights. God damn, I love Boogie Nights.
Mark Wahlberg in a Marvel movie?
He has to be at some point.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Galactus. I eat planets. I gotta eat your planet.
I eat planets.
I'm a big guy. I eat planets.
You can't tell me I can't eat planets. I can eat planets better than anybody. I'm gonna be the best planet you've ever seen. Did we talk about that? How it's a good Mark Wahlberg movie if he cries, and it's a bad Mark Wahlberg movie if he doesn't cry.
That's why I don't like The Departed.
Yeah, he doesn't fucking cry in it. He just cusses. I like cussing, but he's got to cry. It doesn't work.
But back to something. What were we talking about? The Punisher.
Oh yeah, just the Punisher sketch just came up. Like I think we wouldn't have had the chutzpah to like it's Passover chutzpah.
L'chaim.
I don't think we would have had I don't think we would have made that had we not already kind of pulled off the pilot and seen that we could put together like a good team to make something.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we shot that in one day in 3 different locations. We shot it in our basement, our backyard, and our friend's photo, like his photo lab. But what's really funny about that is we didn't know we were shooting in those 3 locations until the moment that we started shooting there. We were like, there is so much hubris and like, we're just going to do it. We made costumes. Mutoid Man is in it. Steve and Nick are puzzle men. Lucy's really funny in it. She's child abuse. I think it was the first thing we ever really did with her because this is before Open Up This Mic.
Yeah, this is the first. Yeah, this was the first thing I asked Lucy to do. after we started doing stand up together.
Yeah, she's great in it. She's so
great.
funny.
She's so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
I
And
still
you
really
learned
like-
how to do color correction, and you made it look like a fucking old timey thing. It looks great still.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it looked like I love the intro the intro animation so much. It's so funny. You nailed it.
That was the first cartoon I had made since high school, which is crazy too.
Yeah.
Oh no, there was one other cartoon that we made before that. And Jordan and I made like I made it in 30 minutes as a cartoon, and it's what if instead of Peter Parker getting bit by a spider, it was John Ratzenberger. And it's the Amazing Adventures of John Ratzenberger. It's
John
terrible.
Ratzenberger Spider-Man. Oh my
It's on my YouTube page. You can find it. It's not good. We made it in 30 minutes.
I love it.
Jordan did all the voices. We were falling asleep, and I was insisted that for some reason I was gonna draw Mary Jane Watson with her eyeball like falling out of her head, and you were like, "Don't do that. We're at least trying. Don't ruin it." And I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna ruin it."
Yeah, just ruin it. Whatever.
It was just like I don't know. That's why I like talking about the Punisher thing so much, because it was kind of like an experiment of like, hey, let's do something. Why don't we do something? And we haven't done anything like that since like college. You know, it's so hard to just fucking make something, especially when you get older and people you know are doing great, awesome professional stuff, and you're like, I can't half-ass anything anymore. And we definitely didn't half-ass the Punisher, but like we threw it together so quickly and we made it so quickly, and it's one of the few things that are older than season 1 that I can still watch.
Yeah,
you know.
I can't watch I can't watch the first 2 episodes anymore. Spoiler alert, I can't watch them. I haven't seen them since. I'm pretty it'll just hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
But all right. So we're talking all right. We're talking about how Spider-Man 3 ruined our lives and also is our weird creative fuel. It is the gas that fuels everything that we make.
Yeah.
Drew, what's your like history with Spider-Man?
I think the same as you probably is growing up, watching the cartoons, playing the video games, reading the comic books. And Spider-Man is weird because other than, I would say every other comic book other than Spider-Man, I don't think I ever read a story after 1991. Like all of my Thor knowledge, and even when I'm like, oh, I like the Punisher, it's like, yeah, because I like 80s Punisher. Like I never read any of that stuff. And then Spider-Man was like, I read it through the 90s. I read Ultimate Spider-Man. It just, you know, Spider-Man is the best superhero because he's everything that I think that we were growing up. And I mean, we'll get into it in a second why. What do you think about Tobey Maguire?
Let me first. My history of Spider-Man is also the same thing, and I also like that he's the best superhero, and I think it's because he was the first superhero that I realized didn't want to be a superhero, and he's like, fucking hell, I gotta be. It's just like it's why his famous quote from Spider-Man is great responsibility, and it's because the whole thing is about responsibility and just like, I gotta be a superhero even though I don't want to be. That's always the best part about it. And those are always the best superhero stories, is like when they want to quit and they can't. Like that's all every best superhero story is that one where they want to stop. And it's always, it's Superman 2, The Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2. They always want to quit. Whenever they want to stop, you get a good movie out of it or a good story.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire is odd. So but I also get why he was picked.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's odd. He has the smallest mouth and no lips. The biggest eyes. It's super weird. A voice that it like he makes. I think there's something that he seems like a person that Sam Raimi just loves torturing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's always that's when Sam Raimi is at his best, is when he's like, oh, I could bother the shit out of this person physically.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about. Well, so we watched 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. I I had a rare weekend off, so I was like, let's just, and I wanted to really put myself back into the context of these movies.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I haven't seen these movies since I was younger than Peter Parker. Like I have not rewatched any of them since I saw Spider-Man 3 in theaters. I never watched it again. I've never seen it again. I watched 10 minutes of it in the back of a pickup truck that had Jordan and I when we were in Austin, I was like filming some shit, and I filmed with this dude who had like a pimped out pickup truck, and in the back seats had like a monitor with Netflix, and I was like, what would be the funniest thing to watch right now? Oh, Spider-Man 3. So I watched up until the scene where the Sandman becomes the Sandman.
Right.
In a pickup truck, and I was like, this is bad.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of the first two movies, having rewatched them?
Okay. The first movie does not know what the hell it's doing. And it's probably because it's the first of these kind of movies, really. Like, I mean, other than X-Men, but X-Men is like an ensemble story, you know? It's about a bunch of people.
Yeah, this is the template for it's weird. It goes like Tim Burton Batman is like the invention of like what modern blockbusters are. Like, it's like this is what they look like. This is or like this is what every studio wanted to create, and then you get the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man, which the first like half of that movie is just what every movie is trying to do. Is like, that's a template for an origin story. There had never really been like we had never seen like an origin story. Every single scene of the origin part of the first Spider-Man is iconic. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how,
and you can tell they tried really hard to make it feel real. Like, they wanted it to feel like this is a kid, even though everybody in high school is 30 years old. They wanted to make you feel like it was a child, you know?
It was super. Joe Manganiello was in that movie. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird. Because I also haven't watched these movies in a while. But, like, I hadn't seen them since high school.
You know what was the weirdest thing for me? Is, so I loved Willem Dafoe in that movie. I think he's so great in it. But Green Goblin is such a weird choice, because it never at any point were they like, oh, hey, I'm working on an experimental suit for the army and also a cool green gas that gives you superhuman strength. And no one is like, well, why is the head of it a goblin? And he's like, well, I have a bunch of masks up in my apartment that I never talk about. So maybe subconsciously I thought a goblin would be cool for the U.S. military. Also swords. But you won't see those till my son uses them. Yeah,
that's, you know, I think that's also like a weird thing, is like really noticing all of the studio notes in these, because now like here overall, I think the first two movies are visually amazing. I think especially the second one is stunning. I think the camera work is crazy. I miss when movies used to have like a visual personality.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the movies look great. I think that I miss combat like this, like where it's just like, you know, real guys like wearing outfits and punching each other, and the camera work is playing with it, and it just feels like a human Pixar movie every time he makes it. But most of the time it's real people flying around.
Yeah,
and beating the shit out of each other.
That's the interesting thing, because you could tell in the first one, about halfway through it, they were like, oh, anytime that the Green Goblin talks, this looks like an episode of Power Rangers. Because you just see, like, you know what's funny is I in HD, you could see his mouth moving. But, like, when I was watching it, like, in my childhood TV on VHS, you cannot see any movement whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so it just looks like two action figures, like, miming at each other. It's really weird. So then in the second one, they were like, all right, well, we got to make sure that this is a very human feeling villain. And that's, I mean, Dr. Octopus is like the pinnacle of how these movies should be. Like, I was afraid I wasn't going to like Spider-Man 2, and it's actually exceeded my expectations, because it's so humanized. It's probably the last of these movies before they became like a commodified. I don't know if that's a real word.
I don't know either.
It's before they became like a Costco, off the shelf. Like
Totally.
It feels it's a movie about humans. It's a movie about like their real lives and their real interactions. And do you think that there was any studio notes for Spider-Man 2? Because I felt like they let Sam Raimi do whatever he wants, and there are scenes in that movie where it becomes like a Three Stooges thing. Because I know Sam Raimi loves Three Stooges. They beat the shit out of Peter.
Yeah, he beat the shit, and he beat the shit out of him. Well, what I noticed about a big thing that I noticed and it is there. Also, these movies are written like comic books, like old comic books. Like, you don't have that, and you don't have people monologuing to themselves alone anymore. Yeah. You don't have, everything's really heightened. Like we hadn't entered the Robert Downey Jr. era of people like being snark baskets the whole time. So it's. The movie is shot and builds exact. I now understand when people used to tell me like those movies just they feel like comic books, and comic books were seem like a kind of lower art form, and you can tell that like Sam Raimi was like getting really good performances out of the actors by going like, okay, so treat this dialogue like it's Shakespeare. Like it doesn't actually like. Know what it's all expository and doesn't feel really human, but let's try to make it human. Like, when he's just Tobey Maguire is in his head like I'm Spider-Man no more, and then he's in his room and he's like he just shouts it to nobody. Yeah, the way that no one does. But I also loved it. I missed that. I think it just really missed like all of the charm and of the filmmaking of the second one. I miss because you can tell he just gave a shit about every single scene that he put in that movie. And all because of, I think it's all because of like the weird physical torture that he puts Tobey Maguire through. Like even just grabbing for snacks and like people are stealing snacks out of frame. I love all of that shit.
His best, like his worst foe in the movie is actually Bruce Campbell as the usher, not letting him in. And it sets off this spiral of just bad things happening. The whole movie is bad thing, bad thing, bad thing. And it's like, how is he coming back from it? And it's so funny because I was actually reading Spider-Man 2 is really funny. And one of the funniest scenes is when he's flying through the air screaming, I'm back. And then he falls and he goes, my back. Yeah. And the reason that movie happened is because apparently he hurt himself during Seabiscuit. He was shooting Seabiscuit, and I guess like I don't know, the horse kissed him too hard, and he got lockjaw or something. And
I hate so when he the was horses like kiss too hard.
Yeah, you can never kiss a horse too hard. And he got hurt during Seabiscuit though, and he was like, I don't think I can do Spider-Man. And they were like, we need you to do it. And he's like, I'll do it for $17 million. And they were like, no, that's crazy. And then they finally worked it out where they're like, okay, well, I guess since you hurt your back, we'll give you more money. And so that joke was like him and Sam making a joke about how he hurt his back. Which now that I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, it's kind of like when you call out sick, but you're not really sick. You're like, I'm sick. Maybe if you were to give me a bonus, I'll come in. It's crazy.
That's so crazy. Bruce Campbell is the best part of all of these movies. Yeah. He's incredible. He's the best actor in all of the movies, I think. He's a star. How did you feel about the Macho Man scene after listening to the Macho Man album?
Man, I've had like a whirlwind of a week, like realizing how important Macho Man has been my whole life. And I always liked the Bonesaw scene. Like I always thought that was really cool. But also I rewatched a whole bunch of Macho Man Slim Jim commercials on YouTube because I remembered them. And I knew that he said snap into a Slim Jim every one of them, but I didn't realize that was all he said. He would just shout, snap into a Slim Jim, something like crack open the pepper. And that was about it. And every commercial is basically someone is bored. Macho Man shows up and the place starts exploding for some reason. Like there's an actress who's bored doing Shakespeare, so they set the playhouse on fire because of Slim Jims. But then the later commercials are literally just him beating up children. Like it's just like a child and him in a wrestling ring, and he hurts them very much. And then he goes like, say the phrase. And then the kid says, snap into a Slim Jim. And you're like, is Macho Man a bully? Why do I want a Slim Jim? He's going to beat me up if I don't eat processed meat.
I haven't seen my first experience with the Macho Man was Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, that's funny.
That was the first time I saw him. But I knew that it was the Macho Man. Even though he said he was Bonesaw, I was like, even though I had never seen the Macho Man, I just knew he was the Macho Man.
Yeah, I was like, that's the guy from that Dexter's Lab spin-off cartoon. Was it like the Imbraggable Crunk or something? I forgot what his name is.
The Imbraggable, yeah. I guess, yeah. What's your kind of, do we want to wrap up 1 and 2?
Yeah, I think 2 is better than 1.
Yes.
Because 1, the first thing is always kind of clunky, and 2 like really, really sets the bar high for like a human villain, unbelievable but still grounded, still has its own flavor. Like I remember there was a big thing about how I remember being really excited for Ant-Man because it was written by Adam McKay and Edgar Wright was gonna direct it, and he was gonna kind of do his own thing, and then they fired him because he wanted to do his own thing because they're all homogenized. That's the word I'm looking for. All the Marvel movies are kind of homogenized now, and there's nothing more iconic to me than this scene in the hospital with Dr. Octopus, and it's shot like Evil Dead, and it's got all the crazy camera work. They reach for the chainsaw.
It rules. I was gonna bring that scene up because it's the fucking it's a masterpiece.
Yeah. The other weird thing that I noticed watching all 3 of these in a row is that they destroyed hundreds of cars. And this is before CGI really was a big thing. So those are real cars. What do you do with a destroyed car? How do you destroy a car?
I think you just use it for a Super Dave Osborne sketch after. I don't.
Yeah, it's like they rip a car in half, and then it's like, okay, well, somebody's job is to clean up car off the street, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they're like, what do you do with those cars? Like I guess you just throw them I don't know. It's like, I know cars are not a renewable resource, so it's just weird to me to know that it's like, all right, so we're going to need a bunch of light bulbs. Those light bulbs are going to break. I'm going to need 37 cars. Each one can never be driven. It's just really, really crazy. Because now they don't destroy cars. It's all just like 3D buildings. I think this also was like 2000. Spider-Man 2 was 2004. So this was kind of the last of the superhero movies where you didn't have to have a kind of 9/11 scene because it was still too fresh. And then in Spider-Man 3, there's a 9/11 scene.
Yeah, it's I forgot which one had the American flag in it.
That's Shocker. Spider-Man 3.
Yeah,
that's towards the very end.
Yeah, the first. Well, the first. Do you know about studio? Like, do you like the entire Green Goblin is a studio note? Like, do you remember do you remember all the old like footage of the face, the robot face they were building?
The original robot face. It's super scary. Yeah.
Fuck. It's such a bummer.
Yeah, they were going to make it like really horrifying. Yeah, and then the studio was like, no.
Yeah, it was just going to be a cool green robot practical face. It sucks. They had all this like technology in the late 90s to like create cool like robo animatronic creatures like that. Like they were going to do it for that like Tim Burton Superman movie. I can't even think of anything that exists that actually used that technology. It just went right out the door.
Part of some of Doc Octopus, some of Mr. Squid Arms, his tentacles were practical. Yeah. In certain shots, they had like animatronic hands and stuff, and there were obviously for the really insane things like creating fusion in a small. What's the craziest thing to believe about Spider-Man 2 is that there would be real estate in New York City that wasn't owned by anyone.
I know,
man. That's we're going to get into Spider-Man 3, but something that's really weird about these movies that really dates them, I noticed, is
Alleyways?
Yeah, alleyways. Well, we after these movies came out, I moved to New York, and I realized they don't have alleys in New York.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy because every scene has an alley.
Yeah.
But there's a weird thing in newer Marvel movies, they don't make it a huge point that these people have to hide who they are. Like, that's a huge part of Spider-Man, is that people can't find out who he is. And Daredevil has that too. But Spider-Man more so in the movies. That's the main plot. Is like, if anyone found out who I was, Mary Jane would die. You know.
Yeah.
But there's that scene where on the subway where they raise his body up and they throw him in the back like Christ. Happy Easter, everybody.
They literally just like we're recording this on Easter, and he has the little like he's got the little stab wound like Christ. Like they wouldn't do that anymore in like a new. It wouldn't be so heavy-handed, but it's such a comic book thing to be just like, yeah, literally it's Jesus.
Yeah, it's like Jesus.
Fuck,
and then,
isn't that funny? Yeah.
And there is that line, he's like, he's just like us, or he's just a kid or something.
Yeah.
And if that movie was made 6 years later, someone would have pulled out an iPhone and taken a picture of his face and been like, I'm going to sell this.
I know, but it's just...
Even when they find the suit in the trash, there's the guy who's like, I could get more money for this on eBay. And J. Jonah Jameson's like, I'll give you $100. And he's like, he should have been like, no, you idiot, eBay. People pay more than $100 on eBay. Use coupon code, you know?
Yeah.
What did you think about Spider-Man 3?
I think it is, because I hadn't seen it since I saw it in theaters.
Ditto.
Here's the thing. It is awful. It is a very specific type of, it is like a full amalgamation of like every possible wrong thing that can happen with a sequel. But I think Sam Raimi is so talented that there is actually not a narrative flaw in the entire thing.
That's what I thought. That's actually what I thought.
Yeah.
It was so much better than I thought it was going to be, but that's also in a weird way why it's worse. Because the stuff that I thought I was going to hate, I didn't. But the stuff that I thought I was going to like, I really hated.
What did you hate?
I hated Sandman.
Yeah.
I hated Sandman. It felt really forced. And I remember them making such a big deal about it because they were like, it's 2006 and we've got a computer. Have you guys heard of the GameCube? We made a sand simulation. And also, we found a guy missing an arm to play Spider-Man so that when he punches the sand, it looks realistic. And then you're like, it looks like a bunch of chicken nuggets. This looks like shit.
I thought he just made a chicken nugget. That's exactly what it is.
It looked terrible. And what's crazy is that, like, all of the fight scenes look terrible. And everything in Spider-Man 2 and 1 had CGI in it, and it somehow managed to look better than this. Like, that first scene where Harry and Peter are flying through the air, beating the shit out of each other. It looks it's such a weird scene, and it looks so bad because I think they were like, look how great these computer effects are. Look how crisp and clean it looks. And if they had done like motion blur or something, it would have maybe been a little less like uncanny valley. But it's just like so clear and clean, and it looks so bad. I actually really liked most of the Goblin Jr. stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I don't know if you want to jump into this yet, but okay.
A weird background on this movie. I was told by a friend at who I used to work with at a comic shop, that they used to intern, or they were an intern when they were at Sony when they were developing Spider-Man 3. And the original, so like the the background on the movie is that Sam Raimi wanted to do a Vulture and Sandman movie, and didn't understand Venom, didn't get why kids liked it, but was going to build up to have Spider-Man 4 be like the Hobgoblin and Venom. afterwards because he really wanted to do the Sandman story. He really thought it would be cool. He wanted, like, the whole movie he was interested in making was just doing that CGI scene where he's like putting himself back together, which is weird. And eventually Sony like read the scripts. They were like, these are great. Here's the deal. We need Venom in this next movie. Because we know that like the audience is gonna want it. We need that to happen. So we'll pay you for both of these movies if you shove them together. So he was gonna get paid the amount of 2 movies to make 1 movie, and he goes, "Fucking sure, absolutely." So he shoves both of these movies together, gets rid of like the Vulture, and like is just doing everything that I think like a Hollywood director at the time should do and is trying to take all these take this messy idea and make it work. And that's fucking crazy.
I think they took the script for 3 and 4 and combined them into one thing, and that's how you get Spider-Man 3. Yeah. And that's why it's so convoluted.
Crazy.
The best example of studio notes, if you don't know what that means, is basically like most people who work on movies are usually pretty good at what they do.
Yes.
And sometimes bad scripts get put out there because they're a topic that will probably get sold. But for the most part, people aren't dumb. So there is, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a scene from Bohemian Rhapsody that's been going around because that movie won Best Editing. But there's a scene where they cut every 15 seconds to somebody else, and it's completely unfollowable. And a lot of people are just like, how did this movie win Best Editing? How did this movie win Best Editing? And 100% it should not have won Best Editing. But what you're seeing right there, no editor is dumb enough in the world to say, hey, this is good. What you're seeing is some sort of studio interference. What probably happened with that is they had to combine pages and to shorten the scene because if someone in the studio wanted faster, there was probably some sort of contract saying like, oh, by the way, you have to show every member of Queen for the same amount of time. Otherwise, Roger Taylor is going to beat up the drummer, you know? And so this guy, and if you look at his IMDb page, like he's edited other movies, he clearly knows what he's doing, got forced to put out this hunk of shit so that he could feed his family. And that sucks.
Yep.
And that's basically, what happened to Spider-Man 3. Because I actually think, let's take it piece by piece. So let's talk about Sandman.
Doesn't need to be in this movie.
Doesn't need to be in this movie.
Unnecessary part of this movie.
Yeah, really forced.
That he had that they made it like he killed Uncle Ben. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. You don't need to do this again. You just did this.
Well, they hammer it in that like this is a movie about forgiveness. That's what everybody's gonna learn. Like we're gonna forgive Flint Marko because he only owns one shirt, and we're gonna forgive Harry.
But it's weird that they couldn't like create another scenario that isn't based around like the Uncle Ben scenario. He's already like a crime boy. You can come up with something else for him involving his family that didn't need to attach him to Spider-Man is gonna punch a woman in this movie. He has a lot to be that is gonna be forgiven.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sandman I think kind of speaks for itself. It doesn't need to be there. He shows up at the end for a moment to be forgiven, and then he flies into the wind as a cloud of dust and a single necklace.
Yeah.
For some reason. There is also like a scene in First off, Sandman is running through the marshes, so somewhere in Coney Island, I guess.
Yeah,
falls into
running down Jackie Robinson Parkway.
I know. Falls into a blender that's doing some sort of science experiment that's never explained. No one ever. They say, "Oh, it's a bird," and they kind of hint at, "Cool, it's gonna kill the bird."
Yeah.
So he falls into that.
They murder a bird with rocks.
They murder a bird. He turns into sand. The police get in there. They never question, like, what was the experiment? Well, did they ever come to check and be like, "Yep, it's still sand. We did it, guys." What the fuck were they doing?
To be honest, the fact that Sam Raimi wanted to do Sandman, it's still that's the hardest part for me to fathom in this movie. I know we got to go piece by piece. We're probably not going to do that. I don't care.
No.
Look, The stuff that works in this movie, almost works in this movie, is the Venom plot line, and it's the one he didn't want to do, and it's the only one it's the only thing that's like a new idea.
Yeah.
We know that studio notes are the reason that we don't have a hooded hobgoblin. It's a fucking skateboarder. It's this weird snowboarding Russian spy.
Yeah.
It's so odd. But they clearly, every time they were like, okay, we're gonna have a goblin person. What if it was a skateboarder? Every time they just wanted to make it into they turned the Green Goblin into a weird bike helmet.
This is my father's snowboard, which I hide behind a mirror, which at some point I bought a new mirror because I broke the last one. He keeps breaking mirrors.
That fucking weird,
and then like
that
his
weird butler.
Yeah, it's like, I loved your father. I also loved his mirrors.
I love that he didn't understand when he was like, hey, can you get some food? And he was like, what?
What? You don't eat?
A guest is coming over? Which guest? Christopher Guest? Who's coming?
Well, it's so funny because that's actually one of my big like things that I didn't really like about the first one is how much like Norman Osborn is like, I was there. And it's like, you were never there. You're only in like 4 scenes. It's like, I raised you like a son. It's like, you paid for an apartment like a father, I guess.
I think that's the point, because he's like, isn't that like one of like the weird angry Spider-Man lines is like, your father thought you were shit. Your father thought you were garbage. I don't know why Tobey Maguire talks like that. That's just my
everyone
Spider-Man
talks like
voice.
that.
Everybody.
Well, because in that movie, you either talk like Tobey Maguire or you're like, hey, I'm from somewhere in New York. If you got a problem with pizza, up yours.
You got a problem with my wife.
Hey, I'm riding the subway. I don't know why it stops at the water. This looks dangerous.
I love every scene in this movie of just like New Yorkers like coming together to like be strong. I'm like, we don't fucking do that. We've seen everybody just ignores everything.
Yeah,
if you saw a fucking dude beating up another dude with robot spider arms, you would be just like, fucking, I'm gonna go to the E train.
Yeah,
this is ridiculous.
Yeah, that scene where they're all on the 59th Street Bridge throwing stuff at Green Goblin. The reality is they would just keep walking. First off, no one would be on that bridge because no one walks across that bridge.
No one walks across that bridge.
Yeah, it was funny to watch this movie.
They always shoot on the 59th Street Bridge just because no one ever needs that bridge.
Yeah,
they can shut it off. It's a useless bridge.
So the laboratory, the Oscorp laboratory, is the sewage treatment plant in Greenpoint that I used to live near.
I know.
That's like they just like here's these big like spacey mushroom domes, and they just put like Oscorp over it. And I'm like, that's where poo poo becomes drink water.
Yep.
And the other thing that's really funny is that the Daily Bugle is the Flatiron Building, but they photoshopped out the Sprint store that's at the bottom of that building because the building couldn't afford to stay open because no one rents those like offices out, so they had to open a Sprint store.
Yeah, it's really funny. Also, a fun fact, yeah, Drew used to live near that sewage treatment plant, and why he actually moved to LA is because it also turns your face into Willem Dafoe if you live there for more than 3 years.
The Heart, Osborn! Okay, wait. So our timelines are getting fucked up. So
it's gonna
happen.
So
I think we've probably said all that you need to say about Sandman. Let's move on to James Franco, because I have a lot to say about James Franco.
I liked James Franco in the in the second movie. I thought he was on ball. He did a really good job at like, I was like, look at him. I didn't think he was like really nervous and like didn't have the chops in the first one. He nailed it. What the fuck is this weird Days of Our Lives amnesia shit is crazy. It's crazy.
I that was the part that I thought I was going to hate, and I actually really liked, which is I like this idea about this is all Harry's story. Harry getting amnesia has no payoff whatsoever.
No.
There is absolutely no reason for him to have that happen. I wish that they went crazier with it. I wish that he was screaming. The fact that they didn't have Willem Dafoe back in this movie standing next to him screaming the entire time as like a weird psycho vision was such a waste. It should have been, it would have been so amazing if it was just him having a full-blown breakdown. But instead he just sort of whines and gets his face burnt. But like Franco in the hospital is the funniest thing when he's just like, you guys are my best friends. I love you. Friends. I would never punch you with my forearm spikes. That's crazy.
You know, because that's the story that's been building in the other two movies, and you're like, all right, we're finally gonna get this like a bad Franco, and immediately they gave him amnesia at minute 10, and it's like, what the hell? What was the point of the other?
Well, I forgot about the amnesia. And when he fell, and I was just like, God. Sam Raimi loves throwing people 60 feet into a dumpster and just having them have no injuries. And then Peter Parker lands on top of him and he's just like, oh my God, Harry, what happened? I don't remember throwing you 60 feet into a dumpster. Quick, I better apply CPR. He bashed his head into a dumpster.
I know. Oh my God. I just found out that the pressing on the chest thing is to shock the heart. It's because it hurts so bad that it shocks your heart and tries to wake your body up. It's for like an unconscious thing. I didn't know that.
CPR?
It's not like related to like the breaths or whatever. It's to press the sternum and hurt the body and like wake up the body because it hurts so bad.
I thought it pumps your heart for you and gets blood circulating, but I'm not a doctor. I'm just a regular old octopus.
I have no idea. I forget. I don't know. I'm really tired, and I think I heard someone say that this weekend.
Listen, if you've been listening for long enough to know that we were going to do a Spider-Man 3 episode, you know that we're very inaccurate.
Yeah,
and because of that, do not take our medical advice.
Don't do this. Don't press on people's hearts if you don't,
Google
if
CPR.
You don't know why you're doing it.
Before we did this podcast, we were Googling like Spider-Man snacks to remember if there was like a Spider-Man cereal or something. And the first thing that comes up is like 18 DIY treats for your Spider-Man party. And it says like yogurt pretzels, deviled eggs, pasta salad.
It's literally just like, it's a deviled egg with just like human in the shape of a spider. The way that, no, why? Ugh.
My children demand yolks.
I don't want eggs. It's just bizarre to do. Like, if he's already gonna be just like devious and pretending to be regular Harry in front of like Peter, why not just have him do that the whole time? Why not have him be a dick who's pretending not to be a dick the whole movie instead of do a weird amnesia thing? Like. That turn, you know what I mean? Like, what is the? I don't understand. That was the biggest. Like, why would you do this?
Yeah, it's so not clear. And then that leads to my weirdest part of the movie, which is basically where he kidnaps Mary Jane and is like, "You're gonna break up with Peter, or I'm gonna kill you or him." And so she does it. And then they never address it again. There never is a scene where he's like, when Harry's dire.
Yeah, you broke up with me on a bridge.
Yeah, they're never like, hey, just so you know, I actually loved you. It's just that Harry said he was going to murder me. But now that he's dead, I guess we can be together again.
Yeah, that whole thing is super odd. It's a really odd payoff to that. I have no notes to fix that because you just shouldn't have done that.
The Harry thing could have been good. I think the real thing would have been if it was like Sandman is completely in the background to the point that that was one thing else about Sandman. So when Sandman comes back to life after going through the sewer, it's like you see it throughout the movie that Sandman basically has to pull more matter into his body to recreate himself. And so when he comes out of the sewer, he's clearly made out of shit.
Yeah, he's
he becomes shit man.
We saw you saw a living diarrhea man.
Yeah, Mr. Diarrhea.
Yeah. Mr. Diarrhea loves his sick daughter.
She has diarrhea lungs. She needs help.
She needs new lungs.
Her lungs are full of shit.
It all kind of ties together. So like, I couldn't believe that that the final straw of his like black suit bad face wasn't killing the Sandman. In my head, I always thought that like he thinks he murders the Sandman, and then his aunt makes him feel bad about it, and like but no, it's that he went to a jazz club and hit his girlfriend.
Wait, okay, we got to hold off on the jazz club because I have a lot to say about the jazz club.
I have a lot to say.
But I think that this movie could have been okay if it was the problem was that every villain was in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Venom doesn't show up till the very end. The villain is himself, and it's kind of boring in that way. And if it had been like, Peter's trying to figure out how to take care of this big villain, but the worst thing is that he has to deal with Harry, and Harry is kind of like your B plot. It could have maybe worked, but there's so much going on, and then there's all the weird Harry amnesia stuff, which is worth it for the breakup scene when Franco goes full Franco and winks. That's awesome. I love that so much. But that's the thing is I love Franco being a dirtbag. I think because that's what he's good at. I love him doing that stuff.
Yeah, he's a perfect smarm ball because he has a very smooth face normally, but he can scrunch it, and like when he emotes, just so much of his skin is just like flying all over his face. It's really interesting, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
It makes for a very good dirtball.
Yeah. So Mary Jane, what the fuck was happening with Mary Jane in this movie?
To be honest, I kind of liked her plot. I think her like with the Broadway thing is really great. I think having Peter swept up in his own bullshit and not paying attention to her is like I think it's a really good relationship problem for them to have. I kind of liked it. I was
I liked it, but they don't think that they did it right, because I think that this weird thing sort of happened where they made Mary Jane's intentions versus what came out on paper, I think, are different, and they wrote it so that Mary Jane came off as like self-centered. And I think the reality is that if this movie had been that Mary Jane was like all she wanted to do was be with Spider-Man, and this movie was about dealing with her being, in a relationship with Spider-Man, and obviously it's basically every night Spider-Man cheats on her, and she can't stop him, because if she stops him, people die. So the whole thing is basically that, listen, I can't stop you from being Spider-Man, but I need to be loved. If that was how it came off, it would have been much better. And if that was something that really set Peter, because Peter having the dark suit and that's going in his brain and making him all crazy and do bad stuff, that's one thing. But if it really was like, if they did it where like he was full of himself because he was Spider-Man, so much so that it pushed Mary Jane away, it would have been different. But the way that she was written in this movie, I remember actually that when she gets hit in the jazz club scene, people cheered.
Really?
Yeah, because it's kind of like a Skylar from Breaking Bad thing where like Skylar is so well written and so well acted that you forget that she's a real person. Of course she's going to have all the problems in the world with Walter White. But this thing to me was like, I thought that Mary Jane's intention and what actually came out of her mouth were two different things. And I think that if it was written differently, it could have been really good. But the way that she was written, I thought was pretty poor.
I think, I didn't get the cheating aspect, until the actual smooch scene. But I did get that. I kind of liked the he's not listening to her at all or paying attention to her at all, because he's just he's enveloped in his own world. But I didn't think that she was. I thought that she was actually. I kind of disagree. I think she was written pretty well, and I think it also might be a Skylar from Breaking Bad thing, because I like how she's written a lot, and I empathize with her more. But I think it's just like it's easy for like angry men to be just like, oh, I hate getting yelled at, or not like when my success like is put on trial compared to someone else, you know.
I agree with you. I just think that it could have been done better. That's really, I guess, when I say like, what the heck was with Mary Jane? I just mean like, I feel like it was an afterthought, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird because, you know, it's really funny. The one thing I couldn't stop thinking about is like, so there's Spider-Man 1, there's the famous upside down kiss.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, she's engaged to J. Jonah Jameson's son, who doesn't become Man-Wolf for some reason. And, and she makes him kiss him upside down. And so in the third movie, when she does it to Gwen Stacy, I have enough friends that are like polyamorous now that I know that in relationships, there are certain things where it's like, you can do whatever you want, fuck whatever you want. You just can't make your famous omelet for them. And that's what that was.
Yeah.
That was like, Spider-Man can do whatever you want, but that kiss is mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that's perfect. It's like when it's still outside it's just when it's outside the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's Spider-Man 3 is a poly movie.
Yeah.
I feel like they had enough problems before the Gwen Stacy thing. I just don't like cheating in general in movies. I feel like it's never, at least when you rewatch like a cheating movie, it just feels like they never put the stakes in a way that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I think, I agree with you. And I think actually that rewatching these movies, let's move on to Peter Parker / Spider-Man because...
Okay. Do you have notes? It looks like you're reading notes, which is
no. I was making mental notes in my head because I had so many thoughts as I was watching these movies because it was almost like watching them fresh because I haven't seen them in so long.
Yeah,
and I think the thing that I like the most about the character of Spider-Man, and the reason why I really like the new Spider-Mans, I like Spider-Man Homecoming, is because he's kind of like, he's really smart. And he's like too smart for his own good, and he makes quips, but he still is a loser. You know what I mean? Like, like he's like, haha, I'm funny, but I'm afraid of girls. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is straight up just Rivers Cuomo.
Yeah,
and Spider-Man, Spider-Man 3 is Pinkerton. Yeah, it's literally like, I'm tired of having Spider-Man instead of sex. These movies are like, they're like Pinkerton Spider-Man, and it's so weird because. Yeah. He's so passive in these movies.
Well, this is him turning from Rivers Cuomo into Connor Oberst for a little while, but not in the way, but not behaving like Connor Oberst at all. It's super weird.
Yeah, he turns more. He's super passive until the jazz club scene. Like every time he gets kissed, it's because Mary Jane grabs him, you know, like everything that happens in his life is super passive. And the one chance, and they don't really touch on it that much, but it's like the one chance that he has to be like in charge of his own self is being Spider-Man. And then as I was watching this movie, I was like, this isn't as bad as I remember. And everybody,
then the black suit stuff happens.
So I actually didn't have that much of a problem with the black suit stuff because the way that I saw it was like, okay, so Peter Parker is this dude who's a fucking loser, especially in these movies. And then this alien gets him, and the alien is in his head just being like, we are Venom. Do what you think is cool. And so that's why he's walking down the street, doing finger guns to people, buying like a leather jacket. And nobody likes it. Everybody looks at him like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. I like that this nerd has become... It's cool that he's like, I'm going to be this nerd. I'm going to part my hair the opposite way because this is what cool people do. And then he hits a woman. Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so I watched it and I got why like Sam Raimi wanted to do like a weird all that weird stuff with him where he's just like a weird like 50s like cool guy. Like he thinks he's just like, let's just make him the Fonz, but literally like it's Tobey Maguire in 2007 as the Fonz. It is funny. It is super hard to watch. I get that's the intention, but it is also like really, it's very difficult.
That was the jazz club. I thought like walking down the street was fine. The second he shows up to that club and is just being vindictive with Gwen Stacy, I was like, oh, I can't watch this.
And saying hot legs, it's so, yeah, that's what I mean. I also
Yeah.
like the weird finger gun stuff. It's really funny. Cause he sucks. But yeah, the jazz club is insane. I can see why he thought it was a good idea. In a funny way. But you know what it is? It's because he had like a UCB sketch mentality. Like, what if it seems like a parody of what someone would do for a bad Spider-Man movie? Like, what if Tobey Maguire just turned into a jazz man when he got the fucking black suit? But it's in the real movie. It's so weird.
When he starts playing the piano, I was just like, what the fuck is this movie? What is that? Is this like the Bugs Bunny Daffy Duck bit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I think
he's just like hitting two fingers on the keyboard and just like, look at me. Guess what, Kirsten Dunst? I fuck.
I know, but I think that's what he wanted to do. I think like that's what he thought would be really fun because Sam Raimi has never gotten to go full Bugs Bunny in like a high budget movie. We've always known that that's in him, but in this movie, here's one thing after watching these three movies is I forgot how much I love Sam Raimi. I forgot that he's one of my fucking favorites of all time because he is so good at he's so tone consistent most of the time, and he's so much fun. But this is just him going off like, you know what? I think it's like, look, all right. You got James Franco on a skateboard, all right? And I'm giving you Venom. You're giving me... I'm going to make a guy slide across on a chair. You're giving me a weird Roger Rabbit dance scene, okay? That's my dream. I think that's what he wanted most in this movie.
And it could have been there. I think if they had gone for the plot of like Spider-Man has gone to his head and he's full of himself and he upstages Mary Jane, it could have been there. But the second you throw in like the weird vengeful infidelity and him, like he didn't learn his lesson when he thought he killed Sandman. He didn't learn his lesson for anything. He didn't learn his lesson until he hit Mary Jane. And the problem is that Spider-Man should have never made it that far. You know, like you have to uphold a little bit of this character. And I get that like the suit made him drunk, but it didn't feel like that. And it felt like he suddenly was alt-right, you know?
Yeah, it felt like, you know, it was like it felt like the movie was saying like, look, hitting women is bad, but it's not that bad. It felt like you could excuse it, and it was like, this is a weird thing that's happening.
Yeah, and it's totally an accident too. Like he didn't intend to hit her, you can tell that.
Yeah.
But they still put it in the movie and still made him hit a woman, which didn't need to be there.
Yeah, it's that definitely that was super uncomfortable. But yeah, no, I would have loved. Here's the thing: if they made him a weird cartoon guy who was trying to be cool, but it wasn't without this. There was just a weird sexual energy to the whole thing that made it completely tonally off. Like if it was like him like walking into places and like making a weird black suit fedora and then just like punching a jukebox, I would love it.
Yeah. It's also
if it
weird
wasn't
because
him being horny, I just can't watch Tobey Maguire be horny for anything.
Especially because like they don't do anything in the movies to indicate that he's ever had another girlfriend. Like in the comics, he dates Gwen Stacy before he dates Mary Jane. There's nothing to indicate that like Mary Jane wasn't his first partner. So it's this really weird like lashing out of like jealousy and inexperience, and it's just really gross. It's a really
you know what it
scene.
is? Or maybe it's because Sam Raimi loves torturing a soft boy. Maybe it's just him making fun of soft boys.
Maybe
it was
bit.
A channeling of. I don't think it actually was, but I can see it. It is a very reflective. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's what soft boys did in my high school. Is they fucking lashed out, and there was a weird sexual vengeance in the early 2000s. It was fucking awful.
But you know what? Honestly,
so these
like,
fucking awful Warped Tour kids.
You know what would have replaced this scene and have the exact same outcome and intention without having to do any of that.
Yeah.
He just goes on a date with Gwen Stacy. Like, he goes out on a date to try to get over. They're broken up. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You know, they go on a date and then he just realizes, like, I can't do this. I still love Mary Jane, you know? That would have been better than him just being like, hey, I think I'm going to finger Ron Howard's daughter at a jazz club.
I know.
In front of the girl from the suicide, Virgin Suicides. Trying to think of a movie with Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
Yeah, so weird. That was the moment. That was like, everything after that was shit too. Because I was like, I literally remember up until the jazz scene that I was like, this isn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
And then it falls apart so hard that you're like, oh, this movie is not really redeemable.
Yeah, it's everything after that is like, look, the pieces are. Yeah, that's when literally I was like, I fucking can't with this anymore. And I remember that also being the part in the movie because here's the thing. I like Topher Grace in this movie.
Oh, Topher Grace. Yeah, Topher Grace was great. He's great
fucking awesome in this movie. Dude, here's the everyone's like mad because he's like a small person. And I'm like, no, I get why he's in this movie because Sam Raimi didn't understand Venom, but he understands the concept of there being like a Spider-Man that doesn't have any great responsibility. And so I think it's really funny that he cast the other guy who could have played Spider-Man, and it's Topher Grace, and he's just a fucking smarm bag.
Yeah,
and he's matching the tone of the movie.
He's
really
perfect.
Well. He's doing great.
Topher Grace was great. He was like he. If they made that movie today, he would have like a Pepe pin on. I thought he was great. The funny thing about that movie, first off, so when he's in the church and he's like, Lord, please kill Peter Parker. I'm like, I can't tell if this is supposed to be funny or not. Yeah, like if he's being serious or if it was a joke. And I think that's good. That's good performance.
That was the other. I think that's the first time I've noticed like the studio note that actually was probably make this like the comic. Like, yeah. I think it was like, because it's weird because now studio notes it has to be exactly like the comic as opposed to when they were like turning him into a skateboard. We're watching studio notes of the future and the past touch each other in Spider-Man 3, which is flying James Franco skateboard. And also you have to do the Venom suit swap in a church.
Yeah.
Even though it has nothing to do, he could have just torn the suit off anywhere and it could have just crawled to Eddie.
First he opens the door to the belfry, which was not locked. Then he looks up 60 feet in the air and sees Parker.
Yeah. Super odd. Yeah, also a belfry that just has open door that isn't just cemented off.
Yeah, and then there was no one like, hey, you can't go in there. That's for the Lord. Here's a sausage and peppers.
That's Jesus's bell.
Go back to Chelsea, you blondie. That one scene where they're looking at each other and like Toby's got the swoopy bangs and Topher Grace has the blonde hair, and I'm just like, look at you fucking idiots in your hair.
I know.
I hope you both go bald. Fuck you.
I know. Oh my god.
Yeah, Topher Grace was really good casting, but that movie, like the second Venom comes in, they
rushed.
It's so rushed.
It's unbelievable. I forgot how fast it is.
You can tell because then the news shows up and they've never done that before.
What the fuck is the news?
The news?
A weird British woman. They're just doing a weird news. I think that's how you know that that there's just like that everyone has given up making a movie if the final fight is just like the news people are explaining it.
Yeah. Oh, he's killing Spider-Man. This is terrible. I can't believe we're watching Spider-Man die on TV. Brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Not a real doctor, but a real pepper. So fucking dumb.
This pepper went to medical school online.
Yeah. That whole end that whole end fight scene is both great and terrible.
I hated it. I hated every second.
I hated it.
Watch it.
I hated it. I hated that every one of these movies has become how strong is Mary Jane's grip, because she basically just at some point it's thrown and makes a magical catch and can hang on forever.
Yeah.
But I did like it when Franco showed up and they were fighting together. I liked it. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
I don't know. I hated this. I hated that they were friends at the end. I'm like, that's not how you can. To me, it didn't feel earned. It felt.
It wasn't earned. That was the biggest problem, though. I felt just uncomfortable the whole time watching it because it wasn't. They were two people that shouldn't be teaming up. I know that he has a little skateboard, but also he has a weird, like, mangled face. Like, they're just like, hold on, to what? Like, his face is melted. It's just like, I caught you, buddy, but he's just got a fucking stupid mouth. And he looks disgusting. It's just like a fucking toe flew in to help him. Mary Jane's like, oh my God, James Franco, what happened to your face? Well, I was microwaving some whiskey and the bottle exploded.
Yeah, he literally just looks like he looks like he flies in looking like a gefilte fish wearing a jacket. It's so uncomfortable to look at. And I'm like, I know you want this cool like children's toy team up, but it is so fucking awkward.
He looked like a Civil War veteran at the X Games. That's the thing is that
Jonah Hex was a wrestler.
Yeah. Jonah Hex. Oh my God. Did you see that movie?
I did not.
Dude, it's fucking bad.
Yeah.
I've seen.
I can't. I can't. But yeah, this was the part I remember just like seeing this in the movie theater. As like a kid and wanting to like, and just it made me want to grow up. It like ruined my spirit. I just saw the team up happening and I was like, I've wasted my whole life. Here's the one thing that I do agree with. Like, look, the Venom stuff is rushed. Also, why you can't have Topher Grace's actual human voice coming through that face. You just can't do that. You can't do
with the teeth.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he looks like he's in Sum 41. It's terrible.
Yeah, with the well, even honestly, I'm sort of fine with that. But just when the CGI mouth of Venom is talking and Topher Grace's little boy voice is coming through there, I'm like, you gotta do something. Just like put like a pitch shift, a something, a little bit. Compression, something. I don't know. EQ, anything to help.
I don't think that they've ever. I don't think that Venom works on film just yet. I don't think they've cracked it.
The Tom Hardy one sucked too.
It sucked, but at least it was fun,
dude. This Venom looks better than the one that's in the Tom Hardy movie, because the one in the Tom Hardy movie just looks like a diarrhea. It looks like the shit monster from Conker's Bad Fur Day. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. We're doing a podcast about Spider-Man 3. I know Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But yeah, like this one, I 100% think that this one looked better. And I liked that it sounded better. Like, it was just it's weird watching this one and going like, wow, damn. It's been like 10 years, but it's weird that I think that this is a better Venom than the one they came up with earlier this year.
Yeah, well, I think the weird thing is that they jumped the gun so much with this movie because so Green Goblin is a dude who wears, granted Spider-Man is a guy bit by a radioactive spider, which also in that scene, I didn't remember this, but you know how they're like these are our 15 experimental spiders, and Mary Jane Watson's like, there's 14. Why did they choose a number so big? Like, no one would look and be like, oh, there's 14. And someone should have been like, no, there's 15, you fucking idiot. It's hard to miss them because they're spiders. You know, they should have been like, our 4 spiders. There's only 3 here. See? 1, 2, 3. I know that's really trivial and stupid, but there's something so funny about like Mary Jane Watson, the girl who comes from a white trash family, doesn't give a shit about radioactive spiders, instantly counting them and being like, there's only 14, you fucking moron.
You bitch.
Now, if you excuse me, I have to go get yelled at by my dad.
and the sexy werewolf guy from True Blood. It's so weird.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's so weird that he's the bully. But yeah, no, I agree. They haven't cracked how to do a Venom, but that's also because Venom's a shitty character.
Yeah,
I love that character, but that's also because I'm a 30-year-old man boy who likes shitty things. But I can admit that he's not a great character. Doing Eddie Brock sucks. Eddie Brock fucking sucks.
And visually, he doesn't look good. That's the whole point of Venom. But like when you see him in the comic book, it's just this like sleek black drawing. Whenever it's a movie, they're like, oh, we have to make him dripping and oily, and it just doesn't fit in. Like, and he's an alien, so there's for some reason a meteor lands where they're making out, and that's.
Do you think they fuck in the spider web?
I feel like it'd be hard to do that,
right?
I feel like
they've definitely tried a couple of times, but it never worked out, and they kind of had to like go home just like a little disappointed that no one came.
You know, a weird thing about these movies is watching it a little bit older and realizing that there was the duality of, because I liked organic shooters when they first came out, because this Peter Parker isn't a scientist. You know, like they don't hint that he's super smart until the second movie. Since they brought in the organic shooters in the movies, it's just one of those decisions that's like, yeah, of course, just do this. Yeah.
Just don't have him building them. That's so it's annoying, and I never buy it.
It was always weird too, because it's like he's Spider-Man. He does what a spider can. He shoots a web out his ass.
Yeah, I know.
No, but there is the scene where he starts having erectile dysfunction.
Yeah,
and literally can't shoot his rope.
Yeah,
he can't shoot his rope. They also like. They make the spider web like really shiny and blue in these movies, and I didn't remember that. It looks kind of gross. And anytime that he, like in the end of the second movie, the first time he does like a love nest of web and then Mary Jane is in it, and he crawls over like a spider, and he's doing like in the comic books where it's like the impossible crawl where you have to like unhinge your hips to do it.
Yeah.
I remember having
unhinge your hips to eat a mouse.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I remember like having the toys as I was a kid, and I was like, I don't understand, why can't he bend his feet behind his head? But when you see Tobey Maguire actually do it, it's disgusting. It's really gross.
It's so uncomfortable. I just didn't want. I didn't want to see his butt moving like that, or like his thighs moving up and down. Ugh.
Also, weird thing about these movies, you see his butt move a lot. You don't see his chin move once.
Oh, because he didn't have one. I am 100% positive that he has like a little, like in the mask they just build a little chin for him.
Yeah,
because he is a chinless person. He looks like an anchovy from SpongeBob.
It's so weird.
So weird. Every one of his faces is also disgusting, and I think that Sam Raimi made him make all those faces because he was like, oh god, I just love fucking with this guy.
Yeah. For 17 million.
So mean.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, for $17 million, you could beat the shit out of me. The scene where he just keeps getting hit by people's like bags when he bends down to get his books, or when he's getting like picked on in a college physics class, and they're just like, "Hey, fuck you, nerd! You knew the answer to that question in this class that we're all in
that I paid money for."
Hey, fuck you! You think you're smarter than me? You are. I'm a background extra.
This movie ruined my life when I was a kid. It ruined my day today.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened was this was the summer. This summer also Transformers came out.
Yeah.
And so it was just like this double punch, because Transformers is my favorite thing
of
all
favorite
time.
Thing.
Like I grew up loving it. I know so much about Transformers.
You have a leg sleeve of Transformers?
I have a leg sleeve of Transformers that people think is Spider-Man because it looks kind of like it.
Yeah.
But that movie came out, and I remember just being like, Well, I'm never gonna be happy. I just got everything I wanted and it sucked.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
This was, because it was the time where, I remember that that someone was like, wow, there's going to be, I'm going to see Venom in a movie, which is crazy. I never thought I would see that. There was just two things. It was stuff that, when I was, like a kid and getting into the idea of being a filmmaker, it's stuff that I always like, it's stuff that you always kind of hope that you'd make as like for me at least. I don't know if you were like ever like, I hope that I can make a Transformers movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The weird one that I always wanted to make a movie for is Plastic Man.
Yeah.
I've had an idea for a while. I've always wanted to do a Plastic Man movie because he's such a weird oddball character. But I think
Totally.
what's interesting about this, in a good way, Spider-Man 3 really represents growing up, because after that, we were always a little hesitant. I remember being surprised that Avengers was good.
Yeah.
It always put you on guard, and you were waiting for something good to happen. And it's good because it's, what's crazy? We're about to have the third Spider-Man 2. How crazy is that?
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're about to have the third Spider-Man 2, but I think in a weird way, these movies have returned to children. I don't think Spider-Man 3 was meant for kids. I don't even think Spider-Man 2 was really meant for kids. But I remember watching Spider-Man Homecoming and thinking like, man, it would be cool to be a child and see this right now, because I could relate. Because I remember watching Spider-Man and being like, that kid's 18. When am I going to look like that? And
when is my hair going to run away?
Yeah, exactly. Why does that background extra have a full beard that he shaved off?
Yeah.
There's a scene in Spider-Man 2 where he's talking to a doctor, and I'm like, the doctor looks younger than Tobey Maguire, and he's supposed to be 20. In Spider-Man 3, he's supposed to be
in a fucking Grateful Dead shirt.
I know. In Spider-Man 3, he's supposed to be like, I think he's supposed to be like 22.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like the movies are coming back for kids, and I think that's cool. Like I watched this movie and I was pretty bummed out, and then I went to get some food and I saw a child wearing a Spider-Man shirt with matching Spider-Man pants. Yeah. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's good. I'm glad that kids are still enjoying it, because movies are for kids. I hate that everybody shat on the last Star Wars, because it was a pretty good movie for children. It's a movie for kids, and it was good for kids.
Yeah, I think we're also like at a time where, like kids movies and like good movies are not exclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there can be a good movie for children. I don't fucking even like movies that are for me. Like stuff that's made for me is like Game of Thrones, and I'm like, I don't need that. That's fucking depressing. Like I don't want to watch, like, life is hard enough. I don't want to watch like fucking Hereditary and then go home and watch Game of Thrones. I don't need to watch just my dream shatter in front of me. I'm already doing it.
Yeah, I don't need
do it
to
every day.
I know. I don't need to watch Black Mirror. I'm bald, man. The world is bad.
The world is fucking bad.
I don't need to know that you can fuck your phone.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, but I agree that it's cool to see that it's cool to watch, like, it was cool to watch like a Homecoming or whatever. I'm like, there's kids being represented, and they're of a specific generation, and also it doesn't feel like it's pandering to anything. It just feels genuine. And like it's connecting to something, not trying to be just like, kids in their phones or whatever. Like,
I love that they're not trying to get into each other's pants in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah,
because children are cowards. That's like usually how it goes. I'm an adult and I'm still a coward, but I feel like
coward. Macho Man should have been Venom's real voice. That would have been great.
Macho Man should have been every character. Complete recasting.
I love it.
I am in a play.
Oh boy, yeah. Oh boy, yeah, what?
Pizza time.
I loved that. See, the fucking mop falling out of the closet.
Oh yeah, that was the start of. That was like the second they did that. I was like, oh my god, they let Sam Raimi have free reign. Free range. Yeah, they had Rami Blammy Bolamy.
Yeah.
They let him do whatever he wanted. Hal Sparks is in that movie in the
So
elevator.
fucking weird. I loved that.
Oh, the biggest takeaway that I got as an adult watching Spider-Man is that all of the problems are basically that Peter Parker feels like he can't talk to anybody because if he tells someone he's Spider-Man, he puts them in jeopardy.
Right.
So he has this huge problem and he doesn't know what to do with it. This whole series is an advertisement for why therapy is so important.
Right? Yeah.
What he needs is therapy. He needs a therapist.
One more time, we need to talk about, just before the end, we got to talk about all 3 Bruce Campbell roles. Which is your favorite Bruce Campbell cameo?
I have to say Snooty Usher.
I'm going French Waiter.
French
Waiter in Spider-Man 3 is the fucking funniest.
Why French Waiter?
I love how it's the most self-referential one. It's so funny. Just him like picking up insulting his wedding ring by going just like putting the glasses on, tapping it, hello, and then also just like romance, I am French, just because he knows that he isn't French. He's just a fucking weird fake French person, and it's just him going off, and his comedic timing with everything is funny. Like the second time when they bring the champagne over and he claps at them like to go, it's great.
Yeah,
Bruce Campbell is the fucking funniest person. I
love I don't speak French, but this is a French restaurant.
No, but this is he's so condescending in each one. Like the best, having him name him Spider-Man in the first one is genius.
Yeah, I think I like Snooty Usher the best because really, like, he is the first villain that he faces.
Yeah,
like. Usher stops him, sets off this chain of events that ruins his life, and it's so funny that it's caught. And when he just points at the signs to explain what he's saying, it's so funny.
So funny,
and
it's really great.
Yeah, I really love it. I do love in the third one that you could definitely tell that it's weird because for every bit of studio interference in Spider-Man 3, there's a moment where Sam Raimi was like, "Fuck it. I don't care.
I don't care.
Bruce, you're going to be a French guy. And my brother is going to steal the show." Oh, my God. We have to talk about J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons is literally never not funny. Every line out of his mouth is the fucking funniest. He's perfect.
There's like an expression called a Flanderism, and it's like how Ned Flanders from The Simpsons started off as like just a normal neighbor, and then they just like snowballed his like little quirk so much that he became like the super God-fearing crazy neighbor. And that's so funny to watch J.J. Abrams go off J.J. Abrams. Parker, get in here. I'm gonna need anamorphic lens flares of Spider-Man. I don't know what J.J. Abrams sounds like. That's my every fucking nerd voice. I could be anybody over the age of 30.
Yeah, it sounds like glasses, big nose, big ears. You did a good job.
But yeah, J. Jonah Jameson like snowballs and gets weirder and weirder until he's eventually taking his own photos of Spider-Man.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
I love the blood pressure in this. I think
the blood pressure joke is so funny.
Dude,
the table shakes.
Yeah. Fucking Elizabeth Banks with a small brown bob is alarming.
Yeah.
Weird.
Oh, that scene where he gets like in her face is just really gross.
You just can't have these people be horny. You just there's certain. He's not allowed to be horny. There's someone else who isn't.
Spider-Man is asexual.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, I have like a list of actors who I'm like, you are asexual forever, and that's just the way that it fucking is.
Yeah, I thought the J. Jonah Jameson sex scene was kind of gross, but
Miss Brandt, get me a condom. All right, on that note, I think we've been talking about Spider-Man 3 for like fucking 3 hours.
We've been talking about it for 15 years. I think it's time.
Yeah, that's the real reason why we did this, is because we just, for some reason, we always have something to say about this movie, and we can talk about it for fucking hours.
Yeah, I want to say that this closes the door, but honestly, tomorrow I'm probably going to call you and be like, hey, you know what we forgot to talk about?
We just need to have a Spider-Man 3 cast where we just a Spider-Man 3 podcast. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Osborn butler who shows up out of nowhere 100% knew that he was the Green Goblin and had a secret. Weird. That was so weird. And then he shows up and it was just like, I loved your father. And it's like, you weren't even in the first 2 movies, I'm pretty sure. I think you just showed up out of nowhere.
Oh, I think it's like, I think I heard somewhere that he's just like a background actor or something that Sam Raimi loved and he wanted to give him some dialogue. And
Great.
So he shows up and good, get him. He gets paid residuals every time we.
He should have been at the end. He should have gotten on the snowboard and be like, "I don't know how to use one of these. I'll help you, Peter Parker." There's just so much shit that's like phoned into this movie that they never like. There's a scene where he's like, "Oh, my old basketball," and it's like, you guys never fucking played basketball. You spent 2 movies establishing that Peter Parker's a nerd.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
In this universe, where just he's not allowed to play basketball.
Yeah.
But I do love the idea of the butler becoming the third goblin. I would love that. Just like, oh, I love this glider. Makes me feel like I have my first pair of knees.
He becomes Venom.
I want a comic book series where they just bond the symbiote to different old people.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I would love that.
Stan Lee cameo. Wow, my dick works. Oh. Was this the first Stan Lee cameo where he talks? Because the first 2 movies is just him like saving children for some reason.
Him pulling children out of the way. You know what? Also, what I remembered about the second one, just to tie it back into music, is that the second movie ends with the Dashboard Confessional.
Yes, it does. Right. Out of nowhere.
It is alarming. But I remember also that I think the first Fantastic Four came out a month or 2 later in the same year, and that has a Taking Back Sunday song in it. And I remember that I think they were trying to gear up for Marvel movies having like these like just pushing emo songs.
Yeah.
But it ended because Fantastic Four flopped like shit.
Well, it was crap. Fantastic Four was such crap. I remember Fantastic Four came out in 2005. Oh. It came out in between these 2 because I saw it when I was still in high school. Because I was really excited for it. And I was in a computer art class.
You love anything that's just like big or rocks or a robot.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. I love The Thing. I love Colossus, who's just a chrome tinfoil boy.
Yeah. He's kind of a robot.
Yeah. He's more of a robot than I am. Mostly because he's Russian.
All Russians are robots.
The only feelings I have is for very small girl in trench coats.
I love small Jews. Oh, I love the Russian neighbor. That guy's amazing.
Yeah, I love that they brought him back and his weird daughter. It was like rooting for him, but at the same time wants to fuck him.
Yeah. I love the old Russian neighbor just because he gives advice like my grandpa.
Yeah.
Like, just tell her you're a good woman. I'm good man. I love that.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to shit in the hallway.
I want more. I love that he's also Sam Raimi's impression of like a bad landlord, but he's better than any landlord I've ever had in New York.
Yeah.
He's the best landlord I've ever seen. I would kill for that landlord.
All he wants is his rent.
For his rent on time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he like gives advice and he's nice. It's great. Yeah. And he's got a fun accent that rules.
Yeah, he sits there with the door open and is just like, oh, here comes Peter, my favorite person in the building, who is right next to where I live. Don't worry, Peter. When you fuck loud, it does not bug me. In fact, it makes me hard as a rock.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm full 2007. We got to end this. I'm getting real horny mouthed.
Yeah, too horny mouthed. Well, all right. But before Drew starts quoting old Louis C.K. specials, let's
Oh God.
What can be the version of favorite song from this? Oh, speaking of music, also the fucking weird shuffle jazz that Danny Elfman is off the rails on this soundtrack. He sucks in this movie. The music sucks in this movie. I loved the music in the first two. It sounds like Cradle of Filth songs with no guitars or screaming. But then the fucking soundtrack at the end, during like when they're like fighting before Tobey Maguire burns his friend, it's just like a weird shuffle snare. It's like a weird jazz shuffle. It's so awkward. It's really
that scene is so awkward because he first he gets stabbed and is like, "Ow, you stabbed me," and then he's just like, "Yeah, also spikes shoot out of my arms." It's such a weird scene.
I'm gonna kick your little ass.
I love that though. That's the thing is I loved Franco-isms. I think he's great.
He's great in these.
Not as a human, but I think he's a great actor.
Do you care about the emo hair? I didn't like it, but it didn't ruin my day.
It didn't ruin my day. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know when you talk to someone and they tell you they hate a movie and then they say one scene and you're like, oh my God, there's more to the movie than that, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like everybody said the emo hair. Yeah. I forgot that he hits a woman in the jazz scene, but I remember people being like, oh, I hate the whole emo hair scene. And it did kind of ruin the movie for me. Not the hair. I think the hair is, who gives a shit?
I don't care about hair. There's bad hair all over these movies.
But it's all of that, like, that combined, you know, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, to just make a huge problem.
100%.
Yeah, it would have been kind of cool if he had done something, like, in a weird way, like, if he had dyed his hair blue, or if he had shaved his head. I guess this is pre-Britney shaving her head, but, like, just something more than just being like, oh, I didn't realize I could wear this down, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. He does do a little hair flip that is uncomfortable.
Yeah. What's weird is that I think Toby liked it. I think that was what we were seeing was the real Tobey Maguire.
The real Toby, he fucking loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He was part of the fucking Pussy Pact or whatever with Leonardo DiCaprio. What are they called? The Pussy Gay? Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's like, when Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, and someone else, and like a couple other like early 2000s actors or like late 90s actors, like, were called like the Pussy Posse or something. And it's just because they were young actors who would go out and just fuck people all the time. That was the thing. But it's so weird that Tobey Maguire is a part of that.
He's a good looking guy. I thought he was really handsome. You know what's funny is I remember
I don't think he's an adorable looking person, but I can't. It's also he's just an asexual being to me.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is I remember him being super buff, and then you see he's just kind of like a normal guy. Like he's just kind of like a guy who's done a couple of crunches and has a good diet. And then so in the second movie, the opening credits, it's the Alex Ross watercolors of everything. And they paint him way buffer than he was. Like, he is in the opening credits of Spider-Man 2. He's got, like, a full chiseled six-pack and way bigger biceps. You could tell, like, Alex Ross was like, really, that guy?
This fucking guy? Favorite bad Spider-Man line?
What was the... I have to look it up because I can't remember it. You go first.
Oh, I think you're really going to dig this joint. Or get me some milk. It's a mean thing to say.
No, he doesn't say get me some milk. He says get milk. He says get me some nuts. Because he wanted cookies with nuts in it, and they didn't have nuts, so she was gonna make more cookies.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Disgusting.
My favorite line is probably when Harry catches fire.
Are you looking at the IMDb?
Yeah, I don't remember. You know what? I think that kind of says a lot, which is like my favorite line is James Franco winking at the camera, I think.
Yeah.
What was your favorite moment of Spider-Man 3 though?
Like I think like oh, this is good kind of thing?
Yeah, like what? Yeah, if you or good or just like when you look back and you're like that was the most enjoyable part for me.
French waiter scene. Whole dinner scene. I think the dinner scene is genuinely really good. It actually establishes how little he's paying attention to her and everything that's wrong with his nice guy bullshit. And then also Bruce Campbell is fucking hilarious. It's the only correctly done front to back scene, I think.
I think my favorite scene,
except for Gwen Stacy in it. I forgot that Gwen Stacy shows up in it.
Yeah, the Gwen Stacy stuff is really weird. When she says her manicured fingernails were on your shoulders, I was like, that's weird.
Like, you don't want to get a manicure? They're great.
Yeah, I'll buy you one right now. We'll save money on this dinner.
Yeah.
My favorite scene was when he shows up in the middle of the night to his professor's class, and he's just like, I'm not a biologist, I'm a physicist. Also, it's 1 a.m, and why do you have alien goo? Peter, you better not touch this alien goo, because it's alien goo. Hey, I've learned a lot about this alien goo, and I think that everything in this movie is because of alien goo. It's such a weird phoned-in scene, and you can tell they were like, okay, Spider-Man 4 is going to have the lizard, so we got to make sure that we show this actor one more time, because we've gone through the trouble of casting him.
Yeah. I did love the way the Goopus moves in this movie. The symbiote Goopus looks incredible, I think.
Yeah, I think
I
they
love
did a
the
good
structure
job
of
with-
it.
It's a good goop, for sure.
I love anything that has like something creeping around and someone looks back and then it just like hides or whatever. Like when it just flattens out, I'm like, yeah, that's some shit.
Yeah, that was Spider-Man 3.
All right, yeah, that was Spider-Man 3. Katie and Jeremy and Lucy will be probably back for the next episode. I'm sure they're regretting letting us do this. They're regretting having Passover or Easter. Because they saw what we did with our free time.
Yeah, once again, Drew and Jordan have a podcast that goes for 2 hours because all we do is fucking talk about Spider-Man 3.
All we do is talk about Spider-Man 3. All right, Drew, give them your plugs.
Sure. Hey, guys, you can find me on Twitter at diet_Hellboy, Instagram at Drew Kaufman Photography. And if you like this episode, let us know, because Jordan and I probably have more movies that we want to talk about. And honestly, we'll
tell us
we'll
to
invite
shut
more
the
people.
fuck up, because we will.
We will. We'll shut up. We're cowards. Cowards.
No, we're not. We're gonna keep. If we have, we'll just probably do like a weird one-off episodes if we have just like subjects we want to talk about.
Yeah, if you made it this far, you like this, and if you didn't make it this far, fuck you.
All right. Yeah, follow me. Follow 2 Minutes Late Night at 2 Minutes Late Night on Instagram. It's not about Spider-Man 3. You can support our Patreon at honorableswords.com. It does not support Spider-Man 3. Please follow me on Twitter at Mr. Jordan Olds. I sometimes talk about Spider-Man 3. Follow my dog on Instagram at Great Hambino. She was not in Spider-Man 3. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Mayer. I don't know why though. I don't do stories on at Dr. Don't follow at Dr. Mayer. You're fine without it. And
follow James Franco at James_Franco.
I don't think you can. I think his Instagram is deleted because he was.
Oh, that's right. Franco's a creep.
He's a fucking little creep. He has the real sexual energy of this movie, and that's why he's canceled.
Oh no.
Oh boy. All right. Create a cologne called Thwipped. Bye everybody.
Bye, the butler.
The butler.